Can Michigan reach the college football playoff? Michigan right now is 3-1. They are undefeated in Big Ten Conference play, beating the then 11th ranked USC Trojans. The way Michigan beat the Trojans, grounding and pounding the football, using the I formation, halfback dive, power to the left to beat USC on 4th and goal, was just the epitome of what Michigan's identity is right now and really what it's been over the previous 3 seasons. But with the limitations that they have in the passing game and the fact that they do have that blowout loss to Texas, and you got number 19 currently Illinois, number 8 Oregon, number 3 Ohio State via the polls, and then Washington, Indiana, Oregon, and Ohio State. All of those teams per either S&P Plus or FPI, and or both of them, have those teams in the top 25, and Ohio State and Oregon certainly are top 4 in the Big Ten. Can they reach the playoff? Because a 9-3 Michigan is not guaranteed to get in. 8-4 certainly doesn't get you in. 10-2, basically, can Michigan go 10-2? Is that possible with the remaining opponents being in the top 25 as Illinois, Oregon, and Ohio State? Illinois is viewed by power ratings still not as a top 25 team, but getting close. Indiana will be challenging. Washington will be challenging in 2 weeks. Minnesota's coming to town this coming week, and they're only a 9-point underdog. And Ohio State on the road, this looks like the most advantageous matchup for the Buckeyes since the 2020 game. And if you don't want to talk about that because it was canceled, since the 2019 game. This looks like Ohio State could win by 3, 4, or 5 scores. Honestly, that's what that game could turn out to be. So factoring all of that in, the strength of schedule that Michigan has played so far, their remaining strength of schedule, how they've performed this season, what we think their limitations are, what they could get better at, can they make the playoff? Is that possible? Michigan right now has the 10th toughest strength of schedule so far this year. They are 13th in strength of record, even though they have a loss. Out of all the teams in college football, Michigan is the highest rated team with a loss. The highest rated team. Next highest who has a loss is LSU with the 19th toughest strength of record. And in game control, Michigan's 25th. And in their remaining strength of schedule, that's 20th. So this is a team in the Wolverines who has played a very tough schedule so far, who has a very tough schedule ahead, who is viewed by every analytic as a top 25 team, despite their limitations in the passing offense, because their rushing offense is elite. They have some potential in the passing offense because of their tight ends, especially if Colston Loveland can get healthy. And the defensive performance they put on against USC was a clinic. It was one of the best defensive performances against a Lincoln Riley offense that I have ever seen. So with all that being said, yes, I do think Michigan can reach the college football playoff, but it will take a lot. It will take probably Michigan winning out until they play Ohio State, because at this point, I'm going to give Michigan only a slightly better chance of beating Ohio State than Iowa. And I would say that Iowa has a sliver of a chance. They have hope, but hope's not a strategy. For Michigan, they have a little bit more than hope. But FPI right now favors Ohio State to beat Michigan 87.3% to 12.7%. I would say that's about correct. If not, Ohio State should be above 90% chance, given more than a 90% chance to beat Michigan, with it being in the horseshoe, with Ohio State having, from what we can tell, an elite rushing offense, an elite passing defense, a great near-elite rushing defense, and a great near-elite passing offense. They're one of the best teams in all of college football. And every other team on the schedule, yes, including Oregon, has looked much more vulnerable in the first few weeks of September than Ohio State has. Minnesota, This coming Saturday, week 5, is beatable. Washington the following week in week 6 is beatable. Michigan then has a bye. They could be 5-1 entering that bye, and they'll need that momentum in the rest because they play Illinois on the road in week 8. Yeah, because Minnesota's week 5, Washington's week 6, bye week 7. At Illinois, week 8. They could still be top 25. Illinois looked pretty good against Nebraska, like they could hold their own physically. That'll be a tough challenge, especially when the following week in week 10, Michigan plays Michigan State. And then the Wolverines play Oregon November 2nd in week 11. Home game, but Oregon will likely be top 10. They could be undefeated because there's a chance they could beat Ohio State. And Michigan hosting an undefeated Oregon, perhaps winning the rest of their games up until that point. That would be a top 10 matchup, and one that could very well be on big noon kickoff. Or that could be a night game. Could be under the lights for Michigan. It certainly would be a big game no matter what, because Michigan will be favored to win the rest of their games up until that point, where Oregon will obviously be favored, at least if things remain to be what they have been. Then Michigan travels to Indiana November 9th. That is week 12, actually. No, it's week 11. And then they have a bye week 12, play Northwestern at home week 13, play at Ohio State week 14. I'm probably getting some of my weeks mixed up. That's my apologies, because I'm just looking at the 2024 ESPN schedule, which doesn't show week by week. It just shows the dates of the games, the times if they're there, and obviously you can tell by the fact if it skips ahead 14 days from game to game that there's a bye smudged in between those matchups. But Michigan can absolutely reach the college football playoff, because as of right now, per FPI, they're only underdogs to Ohio State, Indiana, and Oregon. So if you go by just if you're above 50%, you win. If you're below, you lose. Michigan will finish the year 8-4. And against Oregon, Michigan is given a 44.6% chance to win. Against Indiana, Michigan is given a 39.3% chance to win. Ohio State's obviously that 12.7% chance. But let's say if 50-50 games or 40-60 games, regardless either way, always go to Michigan, well then, you have a case where Michigan's 10-1 entering Columbus, and Ohio State's either 10-1 or 11-0 entering the game. I highly doubt they'll be 9-2 entering the game, Ohio State. It's possible, because they play Oregon and Penn State, who will be top 10 teams, who are top 10 teams, but it's very unlikely. And Michigan, whether they win in Columbus or lose, if they have 10 wins, they're getting into the college football playoff, because Texas will either be 11-1 or 12-0, most likely. Ohio State will probably be the same thing. Oregon, 10-2, 11-1, could also be 12-0, and especially could be 12-0 if the way they played against Oregon State's the way they're going to play for the rest of the year. Michigan is one of the toughest schedules in all of the country, and a 10-2 Michigan, consequentially, will not be left out. And I think that Michigan can go 10-2. 11-1, very much pushing it, and 12-0 is impossible because of the loss to Texas. But Michigan can reach the playoff, in my mind. What they need, though, to ensure that is a superior passing offense. They are weak right now at quarterback and wide receiver, and they need desperately better play from Alex Orji, from Samaj Morgan, Frederick Moore, Tyler Morris, Colston Loveland, Marlon Klein, Hogan Hansen. They need better play from their passing offense, and also Evan Link at offensive tackle, who's struggled tremendously, and I hope that he's able to improve and do better, but we'll have to see on that. The passing offense needs upgrades. They need to perform at a higher level. Michigan on the season right now is passing for 5.5 yards per attempt, and they have a 111.6 passer rating. Orji is only passing for 2.6 yards per attempt, and Michigan's only completing about 64.4% of their passes, which is about the only statistic in their passing offense that's okay, but that's because Warren and Orji have done a pretty good job simply getting to the ball to their check down. Like, Michigan doesn't try to even be explosive in the passing offense. Running the ball, however, Michigan is 819 rushing yards through 4 games. They're averaging over 200 yards per game. They're averaging 5.6 yards per carry. They have 6 rushing touchdowns and 147 carries. This is a better Michigan rushing attack, objectively, than last year. You put this Michigan rushing attack, and I don't know exactly why that is. I think part of it's the fact that they don't have the passing offense they did last year, so they're automatically defaulting to running the football more. But I have a sneaking suspicion that this rushing offense objectively is even better than last year's rushing offense. Not because the running back room is better. It might be very similar, though, based off of how Khalil Mullings has looked. But there's a good chance that the struggles that Michigan's offensive line had last season just aren't present right now on the interior. They've struggled at times on the interior at Michigan this year, but against USC, they did a pretty good job on the interior of the O-line, and also on the exterior too when they were run blocking. And they're strong at running back with Mullings and Donovan Edwards. Mullings has 429 yards, 8.1 yards per carry, and 4 rushing touchdowns. They're strong at tight end, and Colston Loveland, it sounds like he'll return soon. They're very strong at O-line, linebacker, DB, and special teams. And their defensive line is the best in college football. They're only allowing opponents to run for 3.1 yards per carry, and they're allowing under 90 rushing yards per game. And they have faced Texas, who probably has the nation's best offensive line when healthy. And USC's offensive line, while not great, maybe not even good, is average and consequentially a better offensive line than most Big Ten schools have already played. And Woody Marks is a good running back. Just look at what he did at Mississippi State under Zach Arnett and Mike Leach, where Mike Leach didn't want to run the football, and Zach Arnett's offense just sucked in his sole year with the Mississippi State Bulldogs. So what Michigan needs to do is play to their identity. They need to run the ball a lot and play good defense. Play that same type of defense they did against USC, which is an elite defensive performance. However, if they can pass from here on out for an average of like 100 yards per game, 150, which I don't even know if that's possible. I don't even believe at this current moment that 150 per game is possible. If they can do that, then this is absolutely a team that can reach the college football playoff. If they can pass for 150 yards per game and not turn over the football and run like how they've been running, they could win the remainder of their games. I think that's far from likely, but it's just something to keep an eye on. Is Michigan's so good at running the ball, and they have a very good defense when schemed well, that if they do find a way to produce average efficiency in the passing game, they're immediately a top 10 team again. So take from that what you will. I think Michigan can reach the college football playoff. Right now, I think the most likely range of outcomes is 8-9 wins. I'd say 10 wins is probably more likely than 7, but it's very close. Even 7-5 is still possible, given that the margin for error is razor thin when you're playing this type of football where you don't pass and you get few explosive plays and you're really controlling the clock. And Michigan got explosive plays on the ground, and they will. But when you have no explosivity through the air and just some on the ground, you consequentially get a not-so-explosive offense, which limits Michigan's capability to pull away from teams. Therefore, if Michigan just has one bad day against most teams on their schedule, they could easily lose. Thank you to my Patreon members for sponsoring this video and channel. I want to give a shout out to Crash2488 and Brasco Rascal for being Heisman Patreon members at $25 a month. If you sign up as a Heisman for 6 months at $25 a month, you will get signed free College Football with Sam merchandise of your choice delivered to you, plus access to my weekly college football picks straight up and also against the spread. You get access to the picks, just not the signed merchandise if you're an All-American member at $10 a month. Thanks to Chris Slayton, Connor Little, OH, Ismar, Tyler Nye, and Chilton Cush for being All-American members. And if you just want your name featured at the end of every video with a shout-out, sign up as an All-Conference member for $5 a month. Thank you, John Lynn, Roaming Gnome, Matthew Steele, Austin Christmas, and Shanaisha Cockrell for being All-Conference members. The links to my merchandise store and my Patreon page, both ways to support the channel, are in the description and also down below in the pinned comment. And I also encourage you to join my Discord via the link in the description and also in the pinned comment. Have a great day, guys, and I will see you all soon. Bye-bye.